Okay. Hi, good morning, good evening to everyone watching out there. Again, my name is Nurse Juan de la Cruz. I'm one of the admins for Lefora. And today I'll be discussing about this topic, first few days as a newly hired nurse in the United States. Because I'm sure most of us here in this page are going to experience this some way, somehow. Okay. I'm doing it. I normally do things via like a video editing, but for now I'll be doing it like a live stream because I'm having some trouble doing some edits on my phone. So bear with me with this, okay? So for those who has not watched with this like in the live, you can definitely watch this on my YouTube page, okay? All right. Okay. So the first thing you have to know is disclaimer is not every hospital in the US has the same kind of format when it comes to like onboarding new hires to the US as a nurse. Different hospitals, different facility, different management, different styles. So I've worked in I think 4 hospitals now here in the US, and I've seen how different they are when it comes to like teaching, managing, and some protocols. Though there are some similarities, but of course, there are some differences, okay? Okay, so normally when you arrive here in the United States, your HR, like your agency or the direct hire agency, will be giving you some information about your first day orientation. And it will be like location, date, and time. Usually it will be in the morning because office hours and the HR is open during that time, okay? Then what else? And even though if you're going to be assigned on a night shift, you're going to still have your orientation most of the time on the day shift because you have to do some documentations or signing of documents and all those like forms during the daytime with the HR. Okay. So, all right. So, you should ask your agent or agency about this if they haven't given you instructions for your first day. Of course, you have to make sure that you know what to wear, where to go, what time, who to look for, and bring some of the requirements that you might need to submit with the HR. And one will be like the social security number, your passport, your vaccination proof or details, car details, plate numbers, and some of your medical history. So those are the few things you have to bring with you, or have at least a copy of those things, or just like a written note somewhere. Okay. um, on my case, sometimes I bring the entire documents, like my entire folder of additional documents, but most of the time I just keep them on the car because you might not really need them unless they request. Because most of the time we submit our documents ahead, right? All right. Then on the day itself, on the orientation and the onboarding day, this will be one of your most excited part or exciting part of your life as a nurse here in the US, like starting. And unfortunately, this is one of the most boring part of your nursing career or your nursing life here in the US. That first day, it is really super boring because most likely you will be just doing some documentation or like doing document signing, a few orientations. Okay. Anyway, let's go first. So you'll be in human resources. You have to fill up some of the forms. Sometimes they let you sign some of the few contracts, additional contracts, or some like rules and regulations that you have to follow. Then, of course, you have to make sure to look good during that first day on with the HR because you're gonna take your photo. Okay, so you have to make sure that you might look better, like look best. But sometimes, even though you look best, the pictures on the IDs sometimes do not give you any justice. So, like for me, it's like been 3 times. I always look bad on our photo IDs. So, I don't know why. I guess that's me. All right. Then next, you have to get some details about your car. Why? Because they need the details for your car in order for them to give you like a parking ticket or parking badge. So what you need to know is the platelet number. No, plate number. Okay, of course you need to know that. You need to know the model, the car, the color, and it's like few details about it. So nothing like super details, just a basic car. Okay. Uh, because for the badge, sometimes if you don't have the badge, so they might consider your parking to be like an abandoned car or something like that, especially if you're working night shift. Or it's best to have those, like your car being have a sticker or a badge or something like you put in a car to identify that this is a hospital employee car. So it has its advantages. The next will be your void check. Okay. Here in the US, they use a lot of like checking system. So if you arrive here and you open your bank, please ask for a blank check with them. Okay. You will definitely use this. You submit this with them with a word like has a void in it. Let me see if I can show you something. Okay. Oh no, my bad. Let me try to share here. Okay. Void check here. So here is the sample of a void check. Okay. So if here some of the checks they can put your name and your address on here, but if not, you can just write it on there. Okay. Then like I said, you have to write the void in the middle and like put a cross mark or line mark on it. The most of the time they just need the details of the numbers here as well, is the routing number and your banking numbers. This is used for the for your payroll. So that's one thing they normally need in order for them to be able to give your salary for this particular institution. So that's one thing you really have to bring. Okay. All right. Then next one is where are we? Coffee. Okay. Special. Then where's all right. Normally, the HR will give you a timeline schedule of your orientation for that particular day or days. For example, like 8 to 10 a.m. will be with HR doing some documentations and all those filings. Okay. Then like 10 a.m. it will be like scheduled with an infection control nurse. Lectures wherein they will give you some protocols, color coding for infectious diseases, how they manage like spills, like blood, or how they do with like isolation protocols, like for airborne protocols, contact protocols, droplet protocols, and those kind of things. So they do that as well. Okay. So there's like a typical schedule for this. Okay, so like for moving with the infection control nurse, sometimes they do let you do things like use a PPE. They ask you to do how to gown, how to degown, and like hand washings. Yes, they do sometimes ask you to do that or perform that with them. They also teach you some things like for that has something to do with infection control. So depends on per facility. Okay. Okay. The next one. Another thing for with the infection control is um, oh, okay. Another thing for infection control is they usually ask you to do like a fit mask for your N95. Okay, so let me see. Let's pull a picture here. So this is an example of a fit mask testing. See, he's wearing an N95, and a guy with a hand over here is using like something that has a foul smelling or like a metallic smelling. So whenever you use a mask and they ask you to move your head from left to right, up, down, talking, the essence for this is to make sure that you don't smell anything or you don't taste anything. Because if you do, meaning the N95 that you're using is not fit for you. So you have to use another mask or different size in order to proceed. So it is a mask here in the US, particularly during the COVID times. So this is one of the things that's really part of it. Okay. All right. All right. What else for the what else for this one? Give me 1 second. I'm just having some technical difficulties. Okay. All right. Then after that, travel nurse. What else? Then part of the schedule is of course your lunch break. It's usually just 30 minutes. So you always can eat during the with the cafeterias. You just have to bring some cash because sometimes they don't have any alternative wherein they just receive any debit cards or credit cards on some cafeterias. So it's best to bring cash on you, okay? So other schedules on this day, I think HR will bring you to like a rounds with the hospital, like orientation, like a quick tour of where things are, like where the department for the X-ray is, where your department will be, which floor, what do we do with those floor, where's the HR, where's the kitchen, dietary, and all those things. So like a kind of quick tour. And during this time as well, normally they will produce a badge for you. A badge is kind of like if you have your ID over here and he has another badge, or sometimes the ID itself can be a badge. A badge is like a key, automatic key where you just have to tap it on the door and the door opens for you. Okay, so that's one thing that we normally use. And like for us in this particular hospital, we use the badge for us to log in and log out on our computers. So it is really important to bring our IDs and our badge with us every time we come to work. Okay, what else? Then during the tour, they'll bring you also to check for the Pixies. If you guys haven't experienced what Pixies is, it's an automatic medication dispensing unit. It's kind of like a mini pharmacy that's found in each floor or each unit or each ward. Okay, so here is a sample of it. There's a lot of versions, there's other brands, but Pixies is the most common one. Okay, so it's just like there's a small monitor. You can type in the name of the patient or look for your patient or add your patient's details and just pull up the medications that's due for that particular shift. And it will just like open the doors. I do have a video of it on my YouTube channel if you guys want to watch that. So feel free to browse through it. Okay. All right. Then other things have they teach during the first day is like sometimes the CPR protocol. It's not the HR, is one of the nursing admins or nursing instructors who will do this for you guys, like teach you guys. Okay, so sometimes you do have to do some return demos as well. Then they will do some introductions of supplies, like the sets that they have for like Foley catheter insertion, suction kits, chest tubes, colostomy bags, cleaning wipes, and a lot of those things. So whatever they have, they just want you to be able to recognize what they're using and how they use this properly, especially those things that has to do something with infection control. Okay. All right. Next will be one of the important things that I think we should know because it really depends from facility to facility. Okay, it's the code system. It's like when someone announces code blue, code green, code pink, code white, code silver. So if you hear those over like someone's like painting them, some is kind of gives you a little bit of like a heart attack, like what is happening, especially if you're new and you don't know what those mean. Let me see if I can find different places have different meanings for their like color codings. Okay, so let me see here. There you go. So here's an example. Okay, so it's like a code blue, like for medical emergency. Code red is like for fire. Code pink is for abduction of like usually babies. Is like from NICUs. Okay, you do have to do certain things when someone like for a specific code. Orange for hazardous materials, code green for disasters, code brown for security. It's not poop. Okay. So code black for evacuation, severe weather for code yellow, and weapon threat is code gray or code silver. So different places have different forms of like code system. Okay, so you do have to be familiarized with them. Most of the hospitals, they'll give you some kind of like simple notes, like on your badge, on your ID, they place these kind of things over there. So you can like refer back to this whenever someone is like paging that call. Okay. For example, like in code pink for abduction. After after they announce that, what we do is we stand on the doors. Okay, we stand on doors, exits, and make sure to watch anyone who's trying to get out. So that's one thing we have to do during that code pink or abduction time. So just to prevent from those whoever like try to kidnap the baby will be like will be monitored by some of the staff through some exits and entry points. Okay, so that's one kind of that's one some example. Okay. All right. And another common things here in the US that I'm not familiar in the Philippines is like a rapid response. So rapid response is not like a code blue. It's kind of like you just want, it's like an emergency, but not necessarily dying. So if someone has like a seizure or someone like just suddenly became like unresponsive, so we just call a rapid response and the team will come. Okay. And we can have like a proper order or faster order since all the teams are there. Stroke alert as well. If someone is having stroke, we call a stroke alert. So, and chest pain alert as well. If someone is having chest pain, we call a chest pain alert. So these are the few things that we normally do in this hospital. Okay. All right. Another important part of the training period for the orientation is the IT training. So this is for me one of the most important thing because you'll be needing these informations because you'll be using the computer 95% of the time when you're working in the US, okay, as a nurse. Computers are like your best friend. All right. So one thing they can do is create online accounts for you. One is an email address that is linked for with the hospital. Kind of app that's only built in for the hospital use. So you have to have that account, especially if you're a regular staff. So where they send updates, they send like rewards, they send some notifications through those emails. Okay. Then another thing is like in this hospital, we have accounts for our glucometer and our vitals machines. So we have to have those access. So it makes it easier because after you scan, it goes directly to the computer. You don't have to manually type them in. Okay. The next, of course, the most important thing is the EHR or Electronic Health Record System account. So that's one of the most important part of this IT training. Okay, so basically it is the way for you to chart everything about your patient. If you want to read anything about the patient, it will be found on that particular system. So this is very important, guys. Okay, so there are a lot of different charting systems in the US, and they have some similarities, like it's kind of the basic stuff, but it's just how to use them and where to find them on that particular system. Okay, and you have to abide with certain protocols per hospital. So that's one thing about it. The most popular one, and they consider this as the best one, is the Epic EHR. So they said it's one of the best. I haven't had the privilege of using this yet, but maybe in the next few months I will. Okay, then Cerner will be the next popular one, and I use this the old version one and Meditech as well. Then CPSI and Allscripts. I haven't known anyone who's using CPSI. Allscripts, I know someone, but I haven't used this as well. So like for me, for the Meditech, there's a lot of versions for this, like older version, version, and the newer version. So there's multiple ones. Okay, so it only takes like a week in order for you to get used to it. So if you're savvy with computers, you might take it, uh, get it within few days. If you're kind of slow with computers, it might take you 2 weeks to be more like confident doing some stuff. Okay, all right. All right, during this training, you'll be given certain scenarios on how to do certain stuff. Like example, like admission, discharge, transfer, blood transfusion, medication administration. So they're gonna give you some scenarios, and you're gonna have to perform it on your end, like do like an actual, like you're gonna have a new patient. Okay, so I really advise here is try to get as much information from the IT people. Okay, you really need to get these things because they're the best people to ask for the proper way to fill up things or answer these things. Okay, because sometimes or later on you're going to be attached to a preceptor and she will shadow you, and sometimes some of the preceptors you're going to be attached to are not really that let's say more experienced, especially nowadays that there are lesser senior nurses in the US. there are more like younger generations one. So sometimes your trainee might not have more experience, I mean, you might have more experience versus those someone who's training you. Excuse me. So that's one thing. Okay. So it's best to get more informations and just keep it to you and just use it later on after your probation period. All right. All right. After this, um, also, try to list down all the things that you wanted to ask with regards to using the computer. Just to make a note on the processing, especially if they didn't list them on the modules that they have. Sometimes they do that. So it's best for you to ask them and to know what to do later on. Okay, it's best to ask now, and so later on you can use those informations. All right. Okay. All right. Your orientation with like the class type or the classroom type orientation will most likely either be 1 day or 2 days. Okay. So for me, I think we had a privilege of like a 2 days orientation, and that's it. For a travel nurse, for us normally it's from half a shift to a day. That's how I experienced for the orientation period. Okay. And including the shadowing as well. So that's how different with travel nursing is. Okay, so now let's move on to the shadowing. Okay, so like I said earlier, you'll be attached to a preceptor or like someone will shadow you during this probationary period. Probation will be normally for 3 months. That's usually how it is. Um, okay, I think someone commented we use Meditech in our HCA facility. I guess we're using the older version. Um, if it's the black and white, yes, it is an older version. If it's a little bit like a pastel color, it might still be an older version. I used 3 times or like, yeah, I think like 3 times. The latest one that I know is the Meditech Expand. So that's one of the latest one. So it is easier, but it is still depends from facility to facility. That's from Jean Costan. I'm Jean. All right. Then where are we now? Okay, so like I said, for the shadowing, so she'll be doing like observe and teaching you some routines in that particular hospital. Okay, so usually on the first day they'll give you like a 1 or 2 patients in order for you to get a little bit hang of it, and the preceptor can monitor you better. Sometimes they only let you take one. So if a new nurse, it's nice to start with a slowly and get to do things like slow by slow and on the standards per hospital. That's one thing. Then like day by day they will increase this until you're really comfortable with the number of patients that you're handling, and the preceptor is deeming that you're safe to take care of the patients on your own. But normally it's really like a 3-month period. Okay. um, but sometimes if you're not that up to par to their like standards, you might have to extend, and like the extend for weeks or a month, and sometimes they have to switch a preceptor. Sometimes the preceptor has a bearing, especially for us Filipinos. Sometimes we do have some communications issues, especially for those who are not really like fluent with English, or those preceptor who are not um, too exposed with our accent, particularly for Filipinos who have really super deep accent. So they are having some time, having some difficulty understanding our accent. Okay, that is a fact. So you have to bear in mind that as well. Okay, so but don't worry, even though you extend, it's okay. As long as you keep things safe and your license safe and the patient safe. That's the important thing. Okay. I had someone who like extended for a month because she was a new. She didn't have much experience back in the U.S. In the Philippines, so it took her like 4 months. But after the fourth month, she's been doing good, getting up to par, and now she's even like really spread her wings. She's doing travel nursing. She went to California. She went to West Virginia, to Louisville. So she's traveling. Okay. So for those who do not have experience coming to the U.S., don't worry. You'll be trained here, and I'm sure you'll be able to learn. You just have to be like motivated to learn and try to do a lot of research as well. Okay, but it is safer to get more experience coming before coming here to the US, because there's a saying here: you don't know what you don't know. Okay, try to process that. you don't know what you do not know. So there are times wherein you think everything's good with your patient, but since you do not know, something's already going on with your patient that's causing him or her some harm. So that's kind of like a simple analogy for that. Okay, the next, uh, where is now? Okay, then in some hospitals, they have a skill competency checklist. Okay, some hospitals. I'm not saying every hospitals. For my last 3 or 4 hospitals, I didn't have any checklist. Yep, never, none checklist. The only time I experienced this checklist is when I was in Singapore. When they really have a checklist. A checklist for this is like clinical skills, like a breakdown from like step to step. Like if you're gonna give a medication, step one, get the medication. Step two, ask the patient's name. Step two, verify the medication from the MAR from the computer, verify the name of the patient, and give the medication or scan, something like that. So that's how the competency checklist is. So you have to do that all the skills or checklists for the entire 3 month period. That's your aim. Try to finish that. Um, Here in for my experience, like I said, I have not experienced, but my other colleagues here in the US, in other places, in other hospitals, they did have this checklist. So you might experience this as well. Okay, so it is best to have this checklist. Really, it really helps. Okay, the next. Usually they will sign off. The preceptor will sign on this checklist and tell if you're deemed competent to do this task or not. If not, then you have to repeat again. Then the preceptor have to sign again. Okay, it usually comes like a binder or a folder. Okay, example of skill checklist will be the wound care, IV therapy, assessment, clinical assessment. I mean, medication administration, Foley catheter insertion, suction, and etc. Basic clinical stuff. Okay. Okay. So please comment down below if your hospital has this checklist or not, or the same with me. I'm guessing there's more like the same with me without a checklist. I don't know. That's just me. Okay. Next one is okay. Most of us will experience coming to the US, and we're going to experience some difficulties. That is a fact. Difficulties in the terms of adjusting to how things are done here in the US. There is a difference between the US and the Philippines or other countries, depending where you work and the hospital as well. So your aim here is to learn as much during this probationary period and try to gather all the information that you need before you become solo. Okay, so that's your aim. So whenever there's something like you need to do or you heard someone doing that you haven't done, please go check and learn from them, like maybe just a visual to get an idea on how to do things. Raise questions, like compare how you do how you're supposed to do it in this facility and like versus like the standards of care that you know. Okay, so that's one thing really helps you grow, is to ask a lot of questions. I only have one specific preceptor, but I have many preceptors all in all, because I keep on asking them, like the charge nurses, I keep on asking what to do, and is this okay, this I'm gonna do it. So you just have to communicate with them. And one thing I have to tell you guys is to be assertive. Okay, um, they might assume that you know, because they will consider your experience back home or in other countries, not knowing that we have a different standard. Okay, so it's best to ask them questions before you do some procedures, just to make sure that you're doing it properly. Okay. 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 So, like I said, it will be like a 3 month period. So hopefully you guys will be able to adapt within that 3 months period. If not, just try to ask for extension. In some places, it is hard, especially during our time. On my end, we're taking care of 8 to 10 patients when we started. So it's kind of hard, like adding patients from time to time, especially if you're a new nurse. It was hard. Fortunately for me, I was in a better um, facility before coming to the US, so I experienced a lot of things. And we were taking like 7 to 8 patients often. In a hospital we're in, we had a lot of trach patients. Like four out of the 8 patients will be like patients with a trach. So it was super busy. So coming here to the US made it easier for me because the documentations are quite similar from Singapore to the US. And actually, standard-wise, I would say I think Singapore has a better standards from that particular hospital versus my first hospital here in the United States. So you might expect to see those things. So don't be discouraged. Don't expect to have like a Grey's Anatomy level of care. Okay, not all hospitals are like that. So some big hospitals, yes, but not all. Okay, so please lower your expectations. Okay. So I think that's it, guys. So hopefully you guys learned something from this video. If you have any questions or comments, please just comment below. Okay. So please share me some of the experiences that you're having during your orientation or probational period, like weird things that you discovered here or experience just here in the US. Okay. So I would like to hear them. Okay. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Nurse Juan de la Cruz, your OFW nurse. Thank you. God bless. Bye bye. See you next time.